Hey guys, it's me, Jacob, your very own personal rank 1 healer. I hope all of your holidays were insane. Today I'll be dropping that Resto Druid guide you've been waiting for from my mom's house since I'm back home for Christmas. It's going to include everything you need to know in order to get that Gladiator on the Resto Druid despite all odds in Shadowlands. I've played the Resto Druid over 2700 this season already in the first 2 weeks on stream. I'll be continuing to give as much education as possible in my content for all healers, not just Resto Druid. So get ready. This video includes all of the main things that you'll be focusing on in order to succeed in Arena. So let's get started. We'll start with race. Shadow Meld is definitely by far the best racial that you can possibly use for Resto Druid in Arena. It's just so strong. Helps you get re-stealths to drink. Helps you get your Affinity rake stuns off. You can make creative plays with it. You can Shadow Meld the Stormbolt. You can Shadow Meld CC that's being casted on you. Overall, it's just by far the best. If you are on Horde, then you should go with Tauren. That is the best for Horde. That War Stomp will help you. You can interrupt a cast. You can Cyclone off of it, maybe, if you don't have another stun to use. But if you can, be Alliance, be a Night Elf. It's the best. Next, we'll talk about stats. Get that out of the way. Verse is better than Haste, which is better than Mastery. Haste is actually equal to Mastery, sort of. But you do want at least a good amount of haste. You want to be able to cast Cyclones, get your globals quick enough to where you can play the game and not just be going really slow and feeling clunky. So I personally like having more haste than mastery, but I would not be sad to have mastery whatsoever. It's a good stat. It increases your healing by a ton, but definitely go for verse the most and then haste some mastery if you want some mastery. Moving on to the conduits. So this is the path you're going to want to take in the Necrolord Covenant. You're going to go with Plague Divisor Marilith. You're gonna have no choice but to start with Volatile Solvent, which it doesn't really help you that much in Arena. It doesn't do anything. It increases your Fleshcraft if you're by a corpse, which if someone dies in Arena, then the game's already over 99% of the time. But moving down to the first Potency Conduit, you're definitely going to want to use Floral Recycling. It increases your Swift Mends by so much, just so much. So whatever hot you consume with your Swift Mend, so your Rejuve or your Regrowth, depending on your level of floral recycling, it will increase your Swift Mend's healing based on the hot that you had on the person that it consumed. Makes your Swift Mend's huge. That one definitely is a must, no question there. The next Soulbind ability, this is really key. Thankfully, it's automatic. You have no choice but to pick it. Whenever you're below 50% health, they use courses over you, granting you a shield for 15% of your maximum health for 10 seconds. This can only occur once per 30 seconds. This means that when you drop below 50% health, boom, 15% shield on you. This definitely helps you a lot. It's huge. If someone swaps to you, it could save you over and over again. Definitely useful. Innate Resolve is the next thing that I would put into the Endurance Conduit that you're going to have to go. The only other option that I could think of would be Well-Honed Instincts, which could give you Frenzied Regen automatically once every 90 seconds whenever you drop below 40% health. But I think that Innate Resolve is definitely better. It would allow you to use it whenever you want on demand, and it also increases your regrowths on yourself, which is pretty cool. So if you get a regrowth proc and you're kind of low and you're behind a pillar, you can use it on yourself and it'll make your regrowth bigger. But mainly for the Frenzied Regen, that's almost a full health heal right there if you go Bear Form and press Frenzied with Innate Resolve. So these two so far, I would definitely take Innate Resolve and Floral Recycling, no questions. Next, it doesn't matter which one you pick here, Plagueborn Cleansing Slime or the Kevin's Keyring. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect Arena. Just do whatever you want. But for the next one, this one is sort of questionable. This is between two different choices for your next Potency Conduit. It's either going to be Evolved Swarm or your Ready for Anything. So Ready for Anything reduces the cooldown of your Nature Swiftness by up to 24%, so that's about 15 seconds, I believe, roughly. pretty close to 15 seconds off on your NS, which it's not bad. You can take it if you want to. My personal choice, I think, is going to be Evolved Swarm. Uh, I'm not 100% sure until it gets there and I start messing with them once our renowns go up. But I think Evolved Swarm could be really good to increase it by even more because the cooldown on your Adaptive Swarm ability that you get with your Necrolord Covenant is very short and it lasts a decent amount of time. So almost half of the arena, your HOTS will be increased by a very large amount if you keep this buff up uh, pretty often. It should give you a lot more throughput healing in general throughout the game. But having a shorter NS is also good. That could help you out in certain situations more often. Just depends on how you feel. Try them both. Check it out. Moving on to the Soulbind Conduit in the Finesse slot, you're definitely going to take Born of the Wilds. This is the only one that I would take. It reduces the cooldown of your Mighty Bash or your Mass Entanglement, as well as your Heart of the Wild, but you probably won't be playing Heart of the Wild in Arena. You're 90% of the time you play Mighty Bash or more than 90%. Then the other small percent you'll be playing Mass Entanglement. If you're going to be playing those talents every game, and it's like a CC to help you get pressure or maybe even to peel or stop something or anything, you can just have your Bash up much earlier. I think this is also about a 15-second reduced cooldown on Bash with the 24% tier at 330 item level. So definitely go with that. That's not a question in the Finesse Conduit. So guaranteed floor recycling, innate resolve, and Born of the Wilds. The only one that's 50-50 is the NS on your second potency conduit, as opposed to Evolved Swarm. And my choice is Evolved Swarm. And then the final Soulbind ability, the Ultimate Form, is going to be really nice whenever that starts to kick in. You're going to be able to outplay so much with this ability. Like, I cannot wait to get it. Whenever you're channeling your Fleshcraft, you're going to be immune to crowd control. So if there's a Paladin running at you for Hodge, or a Priest running at you for Fear, or a Mage polying you, well, you could just shift the poly. But any CC that you can foresee coming, you start channeling your Fleshcraft and you have a chance to immune it and outplay them, which is huge. I guarantee that it'll be happening a lot. Like, I'll be able to use it very often to get out of CC or to avoid CC in the first place. Alright, so next we're going to be talking about the legendary choices for Arena. Circle of Life and Death is what I have currently, mostly because Verdant Infusion, the world boss, was not up for the first week or two of the season. I'm definitely going to get that soon. This is probably going to be the most common choice that most people will take because there aren't a lot of drawbacks to it, and it's strong most of the time. The reason I'm using Circle of Life and Death currently is because I was playing Turbo Cleave and will be continuing to play a lot of Turbo Cleave, and both DPS are right next to each other, the Warrior and the Enhancement Shaman that I'm healing, so they just get cleaved like crazy. So because of the talents that I play, and this and that, it just helps me with my throughput. Gives your HOTS 15% increase speed. So as it says right there, your HOTS effects are in 15% less time. It also makes your damage effects 25% quicker too, like Moonfire or Rake. But mostly I was doing it for the healing throughput, playing into Ret Warrior and these crazy double melee teams, but I wouldn't really recommend it beyond the purposes that I just said. Another thing that you can do is, if you can't get any other legendaries, an easy option that you can do, that you can just get it from the PvP vendor, is Sufuza's Proclamation. It reduces all the crowd control that you get by 10% on yourself. And then whenever you successfully apply a loss of control effect to an enemy, interrupt an enemy, or dispel any target, then it'll give you 80 stats in all of your secondary stats for 15 seconds. So that's pretty good all around. If you don't have the other legendaries and you just want to go buy it from the vendor, you can just do that to get a good legendary. It has good item level. It has perfect stats. You get to pick haste verse. It's not a bad option if you can't get the other ones. The only other option that I would talk about for threes would be the Dark Titan's Lesson. It allows you to have Life Bloom on more than one target, but it reduces the Life Bloom healing by 10%, which isn't a big deal whenever you combo it with Photosynthesis. You would be playing this combination, this legendary with Photosynthesis versus Purge teams every time, in my opinion. I can't wait to get this legendary and then play it versus things like Shadow Priest Ellie or even maybe just like Shadow Priest Resto Shaman teams. Anything with 2 purges or maybe even 1 purge if this person's mashing purge into me every game and I'm having trouble keeping up, then I would probably play Photosynthesis with that legendary. I honestly think that you could play this versus everything, and it should be decent at the very least, but definitely very prominent versus the purge teams. And this is because all of your healing will be relying off Life Bloom, which costs less mana than your Rejuve and your other heals. And if they purge your Life Bloom, which you'll be renewing over and over again, then it'll bloom and it'll give you your target a heal. And so what you're going to be comboing it with Photosynthesis for is because, as you can see, while Life Bloom is on yourself, your HOTS go 20% faster. So you can keep this Life Bloom on yourself the whole game and then still have another Life Bloom to trigger this next part of Photosynthesis. While your Life Bloom is on an ally, your periodic heals of them have a 4% chance to cause it to bloom. So if your Life Bloom is increasing all of your HOTS by 20% speed, and you have this other Life Bloom that has a chance to just bloom randomly on your target, then it's enhancing that Life Bloom as well. So you get kind of the big bang for your buck for this little combo right here. Not to mention, you don't have to worry about purges so much. Germination makes it to where you would have to be trying to keep up rejuves that are just getting purged over purge over purge over purge, and you wouldn't be benefiting from that bloom that you'd be getting from the purge, and you wouldn't be benefiting from this photosynthesis, which just means you only have to have less hots out, which means less globals that you're trying to keep hots on your teammates while you're getting purged to death. This would be really good in twos versus purge teams for sure. Maybe even versus like not just purge teams, maybe versus like everything. It could be really good. Don't sleep on this. I haven't been able to try it out yet because I don't have the legendary, but I promise you, I would definitely play it. Maybe in a lot of twos matchups, definitely versus purge teams. Those are some options that you can have. Also in twos, if you want to have some fun, you can use this one legendary that increases all of your dots. Drought of Deep Focus. It increases your Moonfire, Rake, Rip, and Rejuves if they're on one target by 40%. So if in twos, I would say because you can't really play Feral Affinity in the way that you do in twos, and that like you can't play it in threes the same way. You can't just get a bunch of damage out in threes most of the time. You'll just probably die if you push in to pump people like regularly. There's some moments you could do it in threes, but it's not common enough to where you would take this legendary in a threes game because the other legendaries are just so much more valuable in threes to help with your healing output. But this is for fun in twos. If you want to do it as Feral Affinity, then it could be really cool. You could just do a bunch of damage, force a bunch of pressure. Eventually, I will have this and probably use it in twos a decent amount once I can attain it. But I have to go through these other legendaries first. Those are the only choices that I would take. Now, moving on to talents. We take Sin Ward almost every game. Actually, I'll just say every game. I've taken Sin Ward literally every arena game that I have played this whole season. The only time I could see not taking Sin Ward is maybe playing Nourish with a Affliction Warlock maybe if you're max range spamming heals, or some type of caster where you can just max range. Maybe even playing like Spring Blossoms in combo with it. That's the only I would only take Nourish in that situation. Even then, probably take Send Ward. It's just a really strong heal, can't be purged. You can enhance it with your Adaptive Swarm, your Necro ability. If you're playing Verdant Infusion Legendary, then you can Swift Mend a while the Sin Ward is on someone, and then that Sin Ward will be, the time on it, the duration will be increased so much, and you'll just have a huge Sin Ward on whoever you Swift Mend after you Swift Mend them. So take this talent most of the time. Wild Charge is the next talent I take 100% of my games in Arena. 100% of the games. It's just so nice to be able to charge in for CC. You can bash, you can rake stun, you can charge to get away from somebody. You can get to your teammate to whenever you come out of a stun, you can just charge to them. You can do all kinds of things with this ability. Renewal just isn't really helpful if you're pressing renewal and you don't have wild charge. Like you could avoid more damage than you would heal with renewal by using wild charge. Wild charge would just avoid all that damage you would be taking most of the time. Plus this is only a 15-second cooldown. So one little thing, if you're on a Z-axis map, you can use it. If melee are training you or something, jump down, keep your teammate up top, just keep wild charging up and down from the thing. It's a 15-second cooldown. You'll just get away from them every time if they're melee. They have to run back up. You just jump down, wild charge back up again, and if they follow you, and then there you go. Next, in threes, I take Guardian Affinity most of the time because I'm playing Turbo Cleave. There's not a lot of room for Feral Affinity in that comp. Whenever you play with casters or ranged, you can play Feral Affinity to help with CC. Those are the two options. Balance Affinity I don't really find useful in threes. But if you're healing melee, I'd say Guardian Affinity pretty much every time. It's nice to have the Incap Roar as well as the Frenzied Regen in case they try to go you, but you just won't be able to push in so much with Feral Affinity with melee. So probably take Guardian in that situation. But Feral Affinity is really good if you're playing like God Comp or Shadowplay or anything like maybe with a Hunter or things that won't train you and comps that have good CC. You could take Feral Affinity to help peel for your DPS or to set up kills. You could do all kinds of stuff with it. It's definitely good. You can see me using it on stream if you want to learn how to use it. Just check out some of my videos or my VODs from Twitch. Now down to Mighty Bash. I take this 90% of the time, I'd say, or more. Mass Entanglement it can be useful if you combo it with Deep Roots, which I'll talk about later. But for this level 35 talent, you would take Mighty Bash almost every game. And now, interesting. Here we go. So between Soul of the Forest and Tree Form, this will depend on what comp you're playing, what you're playing against, and how you're feeling as a healer. So maybe if some of you guys are lower rated, this talent can help you to survive through the initial goes with all the high damage. You can just pop Tree Form and just be insanely strong. You get crazy armor. You can't be polymorphed on it. You get instant cast roots, which I will show you later in a video. You can pop Tree Form to try to get through those Ret Warrior damage or like maybe RMD, RMP, RMPAL in the opener. You can use it before their second go maybe to stabilize, because if they stun you, they can't sheep you while you're a tree, and then when you come out of the stun, you just get big hots up. Definitely watch my videos to see me using it. Mostly, it's going to be good with melee teams. You probably play Soul of the Forest if you're playing with like a caster, like a warlock, or any of these other comps where you're not forced to heal two people that are just getting cleaved super hard. If you're struggling with Soul of the Forest, you can try using Tree Form to maybe cheese your way through some games. I felt that it was necessary at the level I was playing at as Turbo Cleave. Soul of the Forest just wouldn't work out most of the time. It's just the meta is insanely fast. But as other comps, though, definitely you can play Soul of the Forest. It's super good. If you use your Swiftmend and then you regrowth, then it's a huge regrowth. Or if you Swiftmend and then rejuve, then your rejuve is extremely strong on that person. If they're already full health and you just Swiftmended and you don't want to regrowth, use it on rejuve. And that rejuve, that whole duration that it's up, will be going 200% harder. It's really, really good. Don't sleep on Soul of the Forest. Don't sleep on Tree. Don't worry about cultivation. Next, we're going to go with Overgrowth on this tier, level 45 talent. Overgrowth, 99% of the time. I think you can maybe find use of Spring Blossoms with a Warlock or something that can just stand still while you heal it, because the Spring Blossoms gives an extra hot, which would increase your mastery, which in turn increases your healing significantly. If they're just standing in your efflorescent circle, then you can possibly use Spring Blossoms just to be max range. Maybe with Nourish, like I said earlier, you can maybe try that out if you're struggling and you're trying to heal a stationary ranged character. Then you play Spring Blossoms, maybe, if you're struggling and you just want to try something out. But Overgrowth, definitely huge. Instantly gets all your hots out on somebody and casts a regrowth on them. So when you come out of CC and your teammate doesn't have any hots on them, you might need to overgrowth them instantly, maybe even Swiftmend them right after just to get some massive burst healing on somebody. Overgrowth 99.9% of the time, 100% of the time even. But anyway, on to the next, Germination. This is what I take most of the time, unless you use that photosynthesis combo with the legendary that gives you 2 life blooms. Unless you're doing that, then you definitely just play Germination every game. Having 2 rejuves on people is good for healing, just to have those 2 hots, and then on top of your life bloom ticking on your target. And this extra rejuve on the person increases the mastery that you are benefiting from as well. So having an extra hot increases the mastery significantly, so your healing will be doing a lot more depending on how many hots you have on your target. That's it for talents. So we're going to move on to the PvP talents now, specifically. Focus growth, you're going to take this a very large amount of the time. It just lets you stack up your life blooms, which increases their healing in general by 24% if you have 3 stacks, I believe. Yeah, it increases life bloom's healing by 8% per stack up to 3 stacks. It also reduces the mana cost of the life bloom, so that's nice for mana if you play that and you're going to be using life bloom a decent amount. Moving down, I would take thorns versus any team that has 2 melee, almost guaranteed, and maybe even sometimes versus teams with 1 melee if they don't have a purge and if I don't need any other talents in that slot. If I don't feel like I'm stressing for a slot and they have 1 melee, no purge, maybe still take thorns. Reactive resin is definitely good versus double melee. Or if you just have an extra talent slot left over, once again, maybe versus rogue mage. I think I end up playing reactive resin sometimes just because I don't want to use thorns, and I feel like I have an extra slot left over for a talent. So sometimes I'll take reactive resin versus rogue mage. Definitely take it versus double melee teams because it's just super good for having extra throughput on healing. Whenever the way that works is whenever you cast rejuve, it grants that person that you put the rejuve on 2 charges, and it'll heal that target for a certain amount whenever they take a crit melee strike. So it's only good versus melee. That's the only time it'll work, and it also increases the duration of the rejuve by a certain amount, 2.2 seconds it says. So it'll give your hots, make it to where you have to rejuve a little bit less on your targets, which is nice because you'll have 3 to 4 rejuves active at a time sometimes, and sometimes if you're playing a cleave, then it'll be working on both of those DPS that you're healing. So that'll just help you with throughput versus melee. I'll show you my build versus the Ret Warriors, the Windwalker DKs, the whatever double melee, TSG, DH, whatever, teams that are just going to be pummeling you to the ground and you're just trying to heal through. If you're playing a double melee team, you can play early spring, or maybe even if you're playing as a caster team, this will just give you another hot that you can instantly throw out wild growth, which gives you a hot, and it also gives you that more mastery you get from having a whole nother hot on the person. It's now instant cast, just super nice, especially for turbo. Whenever both my melee are just getting wrecked, I can just instant wild growth to have that extra heal in both of them, the extra mastery. As I said, I can thorns one of my teammates, and then the reactive resin's also just helping to push through. So this is actually stronger in my opinion with the comp that I play, mostly over focus growth in that situation, because I'm having to heal 2 targets instead of 1. But if you're healing 1, then maybe focus growth, thorns, reactive resin would be better. But this wild growth talent is definitely good if you're healing melee. So going down to Mark of the Wild. This is probably the only other PvP talent that I would take outside of the situations I just talked about. So this would be versus a Boomkin mostly, because all of his damage is just mitigated by Mark of the Wild very heavily. It also works versus mages if you want to use it versus a mage because you just have an extra talent slot left over. But just be careful because they might steal the Mark of the Wild and then, get the bonus from it if it affects your team. If it doesn't affect your team at all, then you don't have to worry about that. It just depends what comp you're playing. Anyway, so I think that about covers it for talents and PvP talents. So now we will be moving on to the next topic. Alright, so here I will be explaining some of the talents that I just talked about with you guys. Tree Form and Guardian Affinity in this game, just to give you an example of how to use it. So I'm in this freeze right now versus Rogue Mage. I have to come out. I use my Innervate because I'm about to blast heals. I Trinket the Blind. I'm Tree Form. I get dueled, and this is a way that you can use the Tree Form. I root the Rogue off of me, and then I Moonfire him so that he can't re-stealth. And now I'm a tree, so I'm not worried about polys. I just top up my team. I have the Rogue rooted. I re-rooted him before he vanished just now. Then I switched my route to the mage. I'm just a tree right now, not worried about polymorph or anything like that. And now I'm Guardian Affinity, DBM, try to get a Cyclone. In my opinion, I think that Cyclone should have gone off, which would have been huge. It's fine, we went on to win the game anyway, but that's just to show you how you can take advantage of tree form and Guardian Affinity in one small example. This is a high rated game, it works at all ratings. You could go for that DB into the Cyclone, or you could tree form out of a stun and try to top your team. You can use those instant cast roots to just get as much advantage as you can. Alright, so now I will be talking about the healing rotation and some comps that you guys can play as a Resto Druid, just to give you some options and to just kind of explain healing rotation real quick. So notice that my hunter is getting low. I'm cycloning this shaman. I swiftminted him in Est with Soul of the Forest, put thorns on him. I just have full hots on him right now. I used that Soul of the Forest swiftmend regrowth with NS to just top him instantly. Now I'm using all of my Adaptive Swarm, my Sin Ward. I'm even able to hold my Iron Bark right here because of all these hots that I have and all their bonuses. So that's just kind of how to come back from whenever you're at a deficit and you need to get your heals out. You Life Bloom. If you have to Swiftmend because your guy is just too low, then the first global you should do is Rejuve and then Swiftmend instantly. And then if you have Overgrowth and you need to do that, you can. Or you can just Life Bloom, get another Rejuve, get your other Rejuve because you have two Rejuves, get your Sin Ward, get your Adaptive Swarm, and then after that, if you're safe from getting kicked, you can cast Regrowth. So that was just a little example to show you how to get your guy topped up. And also, we can talk about some comps. I think that some of the best comps for Resto Druid that you have the best chance with will probably be Shadowplay, which is Affliction Warlock, Shadow Priest, Resto Druid, followed by maybe Ellie Shadow Priest, or God Comp. You can play those comps. Those are all very solid comps. Definitely good, proven to be good on ladder. Cubsy's playing Shadowplay over 2700, 2800 MMR. It's really, really good. I've been playing Turbo Cleave. I don't highly recommend it unless you're very comfortable with Resto Druid. Healing a double melee cleave right now is tough. You'll have to use some different tactics and talents to get around doing it as well. You just have to be really on top of your game. But it's a fun comp. Turbo, it definitely can work if you play it well. I think Beast Cleave could probably work well also. You could try that out. I definitely want to play Beast Cleave some. I just like playing with enhancement shamans, honestly. You could probably get away with playing Ret Warrior, just because Rets are so strong, that comp's strong. But Ret Warrior would be a lot stronger with several other healers than Resto Druid. If you're just looking to play with a Ret, maybe you can. Probably be pretty decent. Just playing with a hybrid in general would be nice as a Resto Druid. Shadow Priest, the Ellie. You could play LSD. All these are very strong comps. LSD is definitely one of the ones that I'd put up there. So Shadow Play, LSD, Ellie Shadow Priest, Turbo, Beast Cleave, God Comp. God Comp's a good one. Play Feral Affinity with all of those comps pretty much for the most part, unless you're playing Turbo Cleave or maybe even Beast Cleave. You don't play Feral Affinity. I would probably play Feral Affinity with Beast Cleave, but Guardian for sure as Turbo, or if you're just healing any double melee teams. But yeah. Alright, next I'm going to be focusing on giving you guys some really key examples of what you should be doing in your games to shoot up in rating. Right here, I'm max range versus double melee team, pre-hotting my shaman. I'm just pre-Iron Bark. This is where I Shadow Meld the DK's CC. He grips me in. I time my Shadow Meld to where I immune his stun. I get away. If I didn't do that, we would be in way more trouble than we were right there. So that's just the way to use your Shadow Meld. Here, I bust my tree form while they're going. I top up my team. I push in for CC, go Feral. I bash him. I DB his trinket. By DB, I mean my Guardian Affinity Disorient. And then my warrior leaps in for the fear, and we just get the kill on Mez right there, and they go down. Here I'll be showing you how to Vortex Warlock port. You could do this on charges as well. Right there, my team was telling me they were going super hard on that Warlock, so I just drop that Vortex onto the Warlock. He tries porting, brings him back, he dies. So that's just a sick way that you can use Vortex. If you're listening to your teammates, calling out when they're doing their damage. Then you can maybe try to time your vortex like I did and just synergize with your teammates while they're bursting, make it to where that DPS can't kite your DPS. So you just drop the vortex at the right time and try to bait out that port. And also, you can do this with warrior charges. Here is a prime example of how to open in a 2v2 game as well. You open with the rake stun on the DPS, and you just drop that vortex right off the stun, because you know that warrior is just wanting to charge, he's wanting to leap. You can get this consistently versus warriors. You do it versus feral druids on their leaps. You just try to time it right out of that CC so they don't see the vortex on the ground, and they might be spamming charge or leap, and then you just get it right there, just like that. Super easy. You can do it versus even good players a lot of the time, like high-rated good players. This was probably about 2k MMR, so not super high, but it happens to all ranks of players, I promise. You can get this consistently if you try it out. Alright, so in this clip, we'll be focusing on communication and shifting forms. So, versus this team, good thing to pay attention to, the Fire Mage has Polymorph, the Druid has Hibernate. So if they cast them at the same time, I can't shift the Polymorph and avoid the Hibernate. So you really have to pay attention to their cast bars, try to make sure that you're just avoiding that CC with whatever form that you're in. And it's also going to be about communication, because right here I get stunned by this feral druid. I'm in travel form. So the thing that I am yelling at my team is that only ring. I'm saying the words only ring. Just stop ring. Only ring. This is because I can't get polymorphed. I want them to know not to kick a polymorph if the mage starts casting poly, because if they kick the polymorph, then the mage could just cast a ring of frost on me. So that's just the moment that I want to bring up. He's not going to get CC on me here, but it's definitely a key thing that you should be calling out. If you get stunned and you're in form, then you should let your teammates know. Only stop ring. Try to say it as fast as you can. If you are out of form, then you want to let them know that too. Say, stunned out of form, out of form, out of form. And then they'll know that they need to kick the polymorph. This is special to druids because they're the only class that can shift polymorphs. So this is just something that you're going to have to learn as a druid. It'll definitely help you climb rating if you get proficient at this. Just good communication with your teammates, letting them know where you are in the stun, which form you're in. In this moment, see this feral druid's casting hibernate on me. While you're stunned, you can still, if you're in your form, you can shift out of your form a while, even if you're stunned, or if you're CC'd by anything except for maybe Cyclone. But even Cyclone, you can probably do it. I'm not 100% sure, but generally you can. If you're in one of your forms, you can shift out of it while you're CC'd. You can't shift into it while you're CC'd, but you can shift out of it. So he's trying to hibernate me because I'm in form. There's a lot of stuff going on. He thinks maybe I don't see it, but I do. So in the middle of my stun, I come out of the form right before his hibernate cast goes off, and I avoid the hibernate. And it's something that you need to pay attention to if people are doing this to you. Watch the polymorphs so you can shift into a form. Watch the hibernates so you can shift out of a form. Call out what form you're in or not in if you get stunned, and always try to be in bear form. If you're gonna get stunned, try to bear form before the stun. If you know it's coming, 100% of the time, that is what you're gonna want to do. And then you have the option of shifting out of it mid-stun if there's a feral hibernating you. Not very likely to happen too often, but in the case that it does, this tip could be helpful. Alright, so in this clip, I will be focusing on faking kicks. You want to really pay attention to kicks. Right there, I started casting Clone on the feral. I just faked the kick. Fortunately, I did because my shaman starts getting destroyed with damage. I adaptive swarm, make sure I got my full hots on him. I can just cast a regrowth right there because I already faked the kick. I get that off because I faked it, so thankfully. And now I'm worried about the feral kick. He's in range of me. I fake it right there. Boom, I get stunned. If I hadn't faked that kick, if I got kicked right there, then right now I'd be locked out. My shaman's at 10% health, and he would have just fallen. I wouldn't have been able to get those hots on him. Even with the Druid CC on me, I was able to get some globals, which save him for sure. And right here, just to focus on CC again, because my healing couldn't keep up with their damage. The hunter has thorns up. He's rapid firing. The druid's hitting him. My warrior's calling that he's going to stormbolt the hunter. And I already have my hots on my shaman, and his health is just dropping. And they both have kicks for me, so I can't cast regrowths. So what I do is, last ditch effort, I leap in and I bash the feral. Now both DPS are stunned, and I can maybe get some more globals. I dispel the mind games, and I get kicked there, but the hunter goes down anyway. That just gives us some extra time. Those two kicks right there, probably the only reason that we lived at such low health, but we managed to pull off the win. And it's a pretty high rated game, so I'm happy with that. That'll help you guys get a lot more wins if you get good at faking kicks, knowing when you need to fake, when you need to push in for like a stun to peel the DPS from doing damage because you know your hots won't be doing enough. It's a judgment call you have to make in that second. But yeah, anyway, so hopefully that tip will help you out as well. So I really hope you guys liked this video. I hope it helps you. I'll be doing a lot more content on not just druids, but other healers as well. I'll still be playing my druid a ton on stream. Definitely go to my Twitch stream, JacobXTV. I will be doing so much stuff. I'll be your own personal rank 1 healer. You guys can ask me whatever questions you want. I can play high rating on any healer. The only one that I haven't played at super high rating is Disc Priest. So I will work on that throughout this expansion, or maybe even the season. I'll do a Disc Priest, but I will be hitting all the healers. If you made it this far, then you should be set on Resto Druid. You should have some really good information, some things to focus on that'll help you shoot up in rating, and you won't have so many things to question. Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays. I just really hope this helped you. I'm doing this from my mom's house, just at night whenever I'm chilling. I promised that I'd have it around Christmas. I'm going all out. I started learning a little bit of Photoshop for my thumbnails. I'm going to get a YouTube editor to help me with this video as well. So I'm just trying to go all out for you guys. I want to be making content, helping the community get better, teaching you guys. So just come to my stream, follow my stream for sure. You can ask me any questions in the comments below as well. Please like the video, please subscribe to the YouTube. Every little bit helps supporting me, and the more you support, the more I'm able to put this kind of content out to help you. Right now, that's all I have to give. That's the Resto Druid guide for you, so I hope you enjoyed. Bye guys, take it easy, peace.